Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Uncensored Critic podcast. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. It means the world to me. Thank you very, very, very much. And today we have another guest on with so many different talents to her name, and of course, I'm going to get this name right this time, Nay-ah-rah. Did I say that right?
Hello, yes, Naarah, that's bang on.
Nay-ah-rah, perfect. Yes, that was the bit I was worried about. So Nay-ah-rah, let's take a moment to introduce her now. So Nay-ah-rah, originally from Australia, has been working in the industry down under for several years across multiple platforms. Those include in musical theatre, songwriting, content creation, and a host on the national radio show, The Musical Show on ABC, which is the Australian Broadcasting Corporation. And she is also the Young Australian of the Year in 2024. After a great few years in Australia, she moved to London to attend the prestigious Royal Academy of Music, and recently you would have seen and heard her appear at the Lyric Hammersmith in Our Country's Good, where she was praised for her voice, giving, quote, the weight of the story and an insight from the earth, land, water, and air and the Indigenous communities. Her voice, soft and lyrical, is a welcome relief when she wafts on stage to share an entirely different language and truth. And on top of this, she's also appeared in for theatre We Will Rock You, Into the Woods, Come From Away, My Fair Lady, The Rocky Horror Show, Our Country's Good, and The Sunshine Club. For TV, Deadlock for Amazon and Fairway Downs. And in concert, Australians in the West End in London, and Isn't It Peculiar, Nay-ah-rah in concert. So that's just a small sample of her work up to now. So, Nay-ah-rah, hello.
Hello, Oliver, great to see you.
And you, how are you?
Good, making it happen in London, we're always amazing and awful all at the same time.
Yeah, London it has that. It's amazing and awful all at the same time. Yeah, so how is your time in London going?
It's been amazing. I've been recently realizing how much things have started to set in. I've only been here a year and a half, but I automatically, walk on the right side of the escalator in the tube now. I get a little bit frustrated when tourists are slow. There's certain things that I'm like, sometimes I go get a meal deal, which to Australians we're like, what's a meal deal? Because it's just like not a normal thing back at all in Australia.
Yeah.
There's things that now that are just starting to settle in. I'm like, wow, am I starting to call this place home with a
Mm.
question mark, but still home? And I think London's really starting to feel a bit normal. I still have no idea what's going to happen the next day, and no 2 days are ever the same in my life, like most creatives. But
Good.
yeah, it's starting to feel a bit more grounded.
Good, yeah. I think have you gone into a shop and asked for some grog yet?
Is grog an Australian word,
Yeah,
or is
I
grog
think
a British word?
no, grog's I think it's Australian for beer, right? That's what
Yeah,
you
we use grog all the time, but I was like, I
yeah.
didn't know if you guys use grog. I've never heard grog
Oh no,
here.
no, no, no,
Yeah,
we don't. I get this image of you walking into a shop going, "Can I have some grog, please?" And they go,
yeah. Can I have some grog, mate?
yeah. And they go, "What the hell are you talking about?"
No, you're right. You're right. I've never actually heard it here. I think grog was an Australian word. It's so Australian. Like, oh, I'll get some grog on the way home. It's such a gross word to grog.
Yeah.
It's not really a delicious word.
Yeah, where did that come from? Why did you call it grog?
I don't know. I think everyone just says it. We've got a lot of Aussie slang, that
Yeah.
I love. I think the more I've, been here and held a lot of space here, I love using more Aussie words like hard yakka and cooey and I'll go down to the billabong. Whenever I'll go walk about and I'll find that coffee for you. I use as many Australian words, particularly Aboriginal words, as wherever I can, just so people ask about them or just little reminders of Australian slang. There's lots of great words we have down under, and it's good
Yeah,
to share
yeah.
them on this side of the world.
Oh, absolutely. Well, what those first two you just said there, and the one before walkabout, what do those two mean?
Cooey.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Oh, cooey is cooey. Hello. It's a big like you shout across like hello, like
Oh,
cooey,
of course.
cooey
Yeah,
Oliver.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like you shout it across an Oliver when you across an oval or something when you want someone's attention. Like it's like another version of oi. You guys would use oi quite a bit, I guess. But yeah, cooey's a little Aboriginal word from Australia. We've been had around for a while, and
Ah,
yeah, it's great.
so that's where that comes from. I always wondered where that came from because
Yeah,
people go cooey over here, and I go, where did that come from? It's like
cooey,
cooey.
British accent,
Yeah,
cooey.
cooey. Hello. Yeah, it's not you say it better than we do because that's where it started. Oh
Do you know
dear.
what I mean? That's my
Yeah, do
other
you know what I
favorite
mean?
one.
See, London's embracing you already, I can tell. But God, I've got to ask this. It's a very touristy question about Australia. I have to say this, but actually, two very quickly before we get into this. Have you been to? Well, we used to call it Ayers Rock, but it's Uluru now.
Uluru, yeah, I've been to
Yeah,
Uluru many a times.
yeah.
Have you
What's it like?
been or
I know it's on my bucket list. No, but
oh,
what's it like there?
Oliver, it is, and listeners, it is spectacular. It is a wonder of this earth. It is
Yeah.
such a magical, magical place, and it's so different at any point of the days. And I think when you don't actually realize the size of it, I think when you look at a photo of it on your computer or your phone,
Mm.
you think, wow, that's really cool. And when you actually stand there and behold it, or you walk around it, or you fly over it, the magnificence of it. I think waking up at 5 a.m. to see the sunrise of Uluru is just, oh, I can't even believe it. I remember when I first moved over here, when I was 20 years old to England, and I was like, oh, I better go see their national rock and go check out Stonehenge. I was so underwhelmed. I was like, that's the rock, that's it.
Yeah, that's
Um,
it.
yeah, I was like, oh, cool. That was £32. I
Yeah.
was like, that's a lot of money. And then you go to Australia, you fly to the actual centre, and the dirt is so orange, and the texture, and it's
Wow.
cool, and the heat of the sun, and how orange it is, and you have such a different understanding for country and for land and for the belonging to place. I've heard a lot
Mm.
about Scotland, I think, over here, and how they have such a different understanding of country and a belonging to a land. So I can't wait to get to Scotland because I think there's a similarity there, which I've heard about. But Uluru is just magnificent, and it's one of those things you have to see in your lifetime.
Oh, I definitely will. Yeah. So, why is it so famous? What does it stand for exactly? Is it like, yeah? What is it? Why is it so famous?
Oh, it's just, I think the wonder of it there, it has got such a huge cultural connection to the local mob there, the Aboriginal people, the local mob, and it's just it's a place of being. It's got it's got a big document surrounded by it, the Uluru Statement, which means the heart. If you actually look about there, walk about, look about. If you look at like where it is geographically, it is right almost bang center in the center of Australia. And I think many people, and especially Aboriginal people, would say like the beating heart of Australia. It's really like it's this huge being and space. It's really sacred to the local mob and sacred, obviously, to a lot of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Australia just for its place. We're not allowed to walk up it anymore. I think I'm trying to remember the name of the traditional mob, and it's been in my head before, and I don't want to get it wrong on a podcast. But they're very it's just their way of life, that rock, and it's a
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
cultural and sacred space, and so no one's allowed to walk up it anymore. But I think you get so much more by not, and I think in seeing it and beholding it rather than being in and one with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a beautiful thing, which I can't wait for you to see one day.
Oh no, 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 yeah, yeah, you and me both. Yeah, I haven't been to Australia since the turn of the century, actually, since 2000. Then again, I was 4 years old, so I was like, what? I didn't know
Yeah.
anything was going on.
I think
Yeah.
I saw Uluru first when I was 6 years old, though. My mum doesn't fly, so I've driven across Australia so many times. It's not even funny.
Oh,
Like I've driven almost every road not every road, but like all the big highways. I've been on so many of them, and we drive from Tasmania, which is the island down the bottom where I grew up,
wow,
to the top of the Kimberleys, which is up near Darwin, basically,
wow.
but Western Australia. And I would drive that so many times in my lifetime. I learnt to drive when I was so young on open highways with no speed limits.
God, it's very different over here. If you go more than 20 miles an hour down the high street here,
Yeah, you
suddenly you're in
consider a
trouble.
road trip 2 hours in this country.
God, yeah. Well, how long is that from Tasmania up to the top? How long is that journey?
We can do it in 4 days.
4 days.
That's long drives though. So between the three of us, maybe four drivers, we'd take a shift and we'd do about 12 to 16 hours of driving a day. Get up early before the crack of dawn, four, start driving, get to the next place that night, and then we'd take it slow on the way home. Get there quick, get to the Kimberley, which
Yeah.
is where I'm from, and yeah, it was just a beautiful. It's so eye-opening at 6 years old, seeing all of Australia, looking out your window and literally seeing a kangaroo jumping over, going to Coober Pedy, where people live under the ground. That's where our famous opals are from. If you don't know, an opal is a beautiful Australian, like gem stone. It's a really beautiful color.
Mm,
Everyone lives underground in Coober Pedy.
wow.
You go through Alice Springs, Mbarantwa, you pop over to see Uluru on the way through. It's such a and the dirt is just orange. I think that's the thing that British people would find so strange. Like the dirt is orange, it's desert, and there's dingoes and kangaroos and so many bird life, and it just goes on and on and on. It's a beautiful country.
Yeah, I need to get back there at some point. You've sold. I'm there. I'm getting back one day. And so then the second one was, again, this is a very touristy sort of question, but I remember asking a couple of Australians this one night. I said, how does it feel like, and how does it feel to live in a country knowing that anything that moves can kill you? exactly.
I gotta say, this is such a stereotype of England of
I know, I
of what
know.
English people think British of Australia is like.
Yeah.
Everyone asks me about that, and you don't grow up thinking, oh, better just shake the bed off in case there's a snake in there before I go to sleep. I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as British people make us out to be.
No, no.
Sure, I've seen a few spiders, and when I say a few, we've got a lot.
Mm.
And snakes, I'm from the outback, so I've seen my fair share of crocodiles and cows floating down the river, or half a cow from the crocodiles.
Well,
Like the sharks on the beach is like it's a bit of a thing. Sure, I get it. Like I understand. You look at some of the stats around the country, and we've got a few dangerous creatures. But hey, I think in Australia we've got a real way in life of understanding of these animals, and we are a real wildlife country. But also Sydney, Melbourne, Naarm, Gadigal, Perth, all the big cities. Like there's a few spiders, but like they're very inhabited now and very much a city. I think you can walk through Sydney and
yeah, yeah,
feel
yeah.
quite, wow, this is definitely a big city. This is not somewhere a snake's just going to pop up. You never know. I'm not going to promise you don't see snakes in New South Wales, but
Yeah.
you definitely probably will. But it's quite civilized as well. Very inhabited in the cities.
Yeah. So I've got one more question about Australia, then we will kick into your life and career.
No,
Um,
Australia. I love talking about Australia.
yeah, no, I've been to Sydney. I haven't done Brisbane yet, but I'm hearing a lot about Perth. Apparently, Perth's a really nice place to go. Have you been there?
Yes, I've been to Perth, Bulu. We love Perth. Perth's also got the direct flight, the 17-hour Qantas.
Oof.
Everyone loves saying Qantas in the Australian accent over here. The
Yeah.
Qantas flight. It's a great flight. I love that flight. If I've been back to Australia 4 times since I've been here for a year and a half, and whenever I can, I ask for that 17-hour flight because it's just beautiful. It's a
Mm,
great flight and land straight into Perth, probably 30 degrees at 10 a.m. in the morning, and
lovely.
you can pop down to Coogee Beach and just have a little flat white. I'm a strong believer in Australia's specialty coffee scene,
Okay.
and coffee is just great. Or getting a little iced latte. It's just such a hot city. A lot of British people actually have a lot of family in Perth. A lot of family, a lot of British connections to Perth actually, all over the country really. But I feel like there's always people here telling me that they've got family in Perth. It's something I hear a lot. But it's beautiful, hot country, and you get a sense of the country of Australia. You get a sense of the desert of Australia while still living in a city. I think so. It's a good middle ground for British people, let's say.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, to speak of middle ground, yeah, last one, I promise. But I don't know because over here, because the seasons change. So our winter is your summer, and our
Yep.
spring is your winter, autumn. And so, of course, come December, you guys, there's those famous pictures on Bondi Beach in Sydney of everyone having barbecues, and on Christmas Day, and I'm going Christmas Day. In this, well, A, in the sun, and B, in the 35, 36 degree heat, and everyone's out having a barbecue on
Yep.
Christmas Day, whereas the British Christmas is everyone's in like they might go outside for a walk on Christmas Day in their big coats, and you go to your local, have a few beers, say Happy Christmas, and if we're lucky, there's snow on the ground
I
outside,
know.
and whereas what's it like Christmas Day in the sun in 30 odd degree heat on the beach? What's it like?
Oh, it's amazing. I love like we have there's this version of Jingle Bells that we have called Aussie Jingle Bells, and I sang it all the time growing up as a kid. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Christmas in Australia on a scorching summer's day. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a in a rusty Holden Ute. It rhymes with Butte earlier.
Yeah.
And I used to sing that all the time as a kid until I realized, like, I went home for Christmas this last one. I was like, wow, Dad's throwing a turkey that got shot the night before out bush. I'm not even kidding you. We went shooting. I'm driving the car, and Dad's got a gun out the window. This is how it is in Australia. And we use it, and it feeds the entire community. I know gun is a hard word to hear sometimes for British ears, but it really, like, we shoot for food, and then that feeds people for like the next couple of weeks. And I'm
Wow.
driving, and Dad's got a gun out the window, and we're trying to get this flock of geese. I'm trying to get it. And the next morning, I wake up for Christmas, and it's on the fire pit out the front of the house. And Dad's out there in his barefoot, and like with this big turkey that he shot. And I'm like, wow, this is really Australian. And then in the afternoon, like after we've had the turkey and the shrimps and the prawns on the bar, what do you guys call them? Shrimp, we call them shrimp, you call them prawns, don't
We've
you?
got prawns, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I got shrimps, prawns, all ready to go, all in the ice. Yum, so delicious. We jump in the pool for the afternoon, and then all of a sudden, all my friends in England start waking up with the snow because obviously the time difference.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Australia's, I'm in the pool swimming away. My phone starts beeping. Oh, London's waking up. The snow's coming down, and I'm in the pool in 40 degrees, a couple of grogs down. And I'm like, wow, Christmas in Australia really is a great time. I wish I was. None of that is wrong. It's all so
No, I
truthful.
believe you. I believe you. But I can imagine. I get this image like of you guys like get into like through school or something, and then you get to university, or still a young age, and then suddenly you go. So, what was like some of your first memories of like childhood and Christmas? And you just go, "Oh yeah, I'd be in the back of the car, with my dad with a bloody gun shooting." And you go, have you said that to British university crowds or school crowds here? They go, "What?"
What?
And they go, "What?" And you're just like, "Yeah, we see this every day." It's like, he's like, "But pass me another bullet." And you go, you get the gun. And you're like,
Oh, but look, Dad. Like, I feel like that's just the way of upbringing. I remember my first, like, Dad with a boomerang, which is a real thing in Australia. I know boomerang now is an
yeah, 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 yeah,
international word of of a Instagram thing
yeah, yeah, yeah.
of the clip, but it's not like my dad with a boomerang. Like, he grew up very heavily in Aboriginal community. My mum's Aboriginal, my dad's white, and Dad was just always with a boomerang, him with a shotgun. Like, we were just grown up with hunter gatherers, because if everyone listening doesn't know, I'm Aboriginal from Australia, from my mum's side. And now being over here in London, it's been really amazing sharing a lot about Aboriginal Australia and what it's like. And I think it
Yeah.
was always like that was just a way of understanding a way of life. And Dad always with a boomerang, or he didn't actually get he when we were born, he put his gun license in for a good 20 years just because he thought that it just might be better just for the like not growing up with that. He used plenty of other things like a boomerang, so that was fun. It was just a way of growing up, but again, very different to I'll pop down to the Sainsbury's and I'll get a steak.
No,
Just a bit different.
the turkeys when they come in. Are they free range? And you
Free range, yes, out the window, darling.
out the window, yes, out the window. It's like you go into Sydney or Tasmania where you're from, and you, it's like, are those free range? It's like, mate, I just fucking killed them about 20 minutes ago. I still got dirt on them. Do you know what I mean? They bring them out just hanging down, just like that. It's like, is this
That's
what you wanted, mate? And they're going,
Yep.
it is. I think some people over here probably have a heart attack and have to have a lie down after that. What have you just done?
Got
No.
to pluck the feathers. I don't think they realize every chicken they eat is actually from a chicken that someone's,
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. Yeah. You do realize this was a living creature, right? No.
Yeah. But it's really beautiful in Australia because I think we always have an understanding with, the animals and thanking the animals for their sacrifice to the family and for the amount of people they'll be feeding
Mm.
by that animal's life being, passed to nutrition and sustenance for a lot of people. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
quite beautiful at the same time too.
Yeah. Is that quite a tribal thing? Because, obviously this isn't related to Australia, but you've seen Avatar, right? The
Yes.
first one. And you have the scene where the main guy, they shoot with an arrow with an animal. It's a thing. And
Yes.
then and they run over to it, and in the language they go like, "My brother, I thank you for for your service to this earth. Your body stays behind, but your soul leaves, and we thank you for the gifts that you've given us." And it's like a little prayer or something that they did. It's quite a
Yeah.
tribal thing. Is it? Am I on the right lines? Is that something that
No,
you
you
guys?
absolutely. And I think I've got a lot of time for Avatar. And I think I grow I have a lot of inspiration for my career actually from Avatar. I've got a really interesting connection with the movie personally, but I think Avatar brought a lot of light to First Nations clans, communities, mobs, tribes all over the world and what colonization felt like, back in the 1700s, 1800s or whenever the countries were first impacted, and I think I really like Avatar for the space, especially in number two. I think the Way of Water, we get so much more of an insight in the Way of Water into
That
the
was
way
yeah.
right into the and how the Na'vi live, and I thought that was really special and beautiful. But also in today's like day and time, obviously it's set forward, but we can understand about what that actually would have felt like, and just obviously with today's things like we see those big ships and tanks coming towards you and
Oh
what
God,
they
yeah.
would have felt like, which is what our country's good is about, which we'll talk about later, I'm sure, about like my role of seeing those ships first coming towards me and how that would have felt like. I see a lot of resemblance with Avatar, but absolutely I think with that Navi it's almost like it's almost poetry really, and a prayer, I think, to, and it obviously is just recognizing every living and breathing thing around them, and the difference that makes when one of those is gone or passed or moving on to something else. And I think that even the tree of life and what that means, like I think the tree of life almost is our Uluru, getting back to an earlier question,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
beating heart of everything of Mother, is it Mother Awa, I think her name
So
is in the movie.
AOA or
Awa,
something. Yeah, something
yes,
like that. Yeah.
the life giving. I love Avatar, and I watched it at Royal Albert Hall last year with the London Philharmonic and James
Oh,
Cameron doing a Q and
wow.
A, and it's one of the most momentous moments of my life here in London. And then Sigourney Weaver came out at the end, and we don't get to thank actors much in person for movies and for film and for TV and movie. We can watch a movie sometimes, and our lives are affected greatly for the rest of our lives, and we never get to thank those actors because we've watched them on our TV and at lounge home. So being able to
Mm.
applaud Sigourney Weaver when she came out afterwards, and also the James Horner obviously passed away, the original composer, but the
Yeah.
composer of Number Two came out, and it was just so amazing to celebrate these people. And I just sat there bawling my eyes like that. This is a possibility for me. Sure, I've paid £30 in a back row seat to see this movie.
Doesn't matter.
Um, yeah, but I was in the room, and that's a possibility for me because the world is everything is possible. So that movie's been a consistent driver of hope and possibility in my life,
Mm.
and also education. I think for First Nations people around the world for forever.
Yeah, I think James Cameron, I think there was a clip of it at him at the premiere of the second one, and he said, let
Yep.
this film in this series, because I know there's going to be another one. I think there's like two or three more in the pipeline, I think.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, bring it on, James, bring it on. But he talked about how these films are all about for the indigenous communities in the world, and particularly in Australia, and not only just there, but you've got the Native American Indians in North America,
Absolutely.
you've got South American tribes. I'm not sure what they're
Canadian.
all about, but and in Africa and everything, it's all. And there's a brilliant phrase in there. It's like, I think it's in the first one. They say the sky people are coming. The sky people are coming, and people are not people with these big, like you said earlier, these helicopters and everything coming over, and they're going, "What is this?
Yeah.
Who are these people?" And they come with ideologies so different to theirs. It's all about money and power and ego and just
What they
we,
want.
yeah, we will stand at nothing to get what we want, because in the first one they're looking for some like rock or something, aren't they? And it's
Yes. Oh, it's the
stopping at
mineral
nothing to
that they
get it.
want. They're on like $1 billion worth of mineral, which is so valuable to human resource.
Mm.
The
God,
joke. But also
incredible.
James Cameron, I think we can all share in actors. Like I think, obviously, we've all got opinions of what I think. There's a lot of people who hate Avatar for so many reasons, but I've got so much respect for James Cameron and his pursuit of a story. That
Yeah,
him spending more time with Titanic than the passengers of Titanic did themselves just speaks volumes to me. This man has gone to the ends of the earth to create stories for us,
yeah.
stories for the world to see and to perceive and to take in. And I've got a lot of time for his work. Whenever his name's attached to anything, I automatically want to see it.
Yeah, I mean, the Titanic is a masterpiece, isn't it?
Mm.
It's just, it's. I don't know about you, but it's one of those films that I can watch. Like, I'll start watching it, say if it's like a third of the way through, or halfway through, or just towards the end, and I'll just watch a couple of minutes. Then you end up watching the whole thing to the final credits. It just sucks you in a good way, and you're just like, I wanted the depth of, because I've made a short film myself when I was at drama school, and just the work
Wow.
that you put into that for a little
Yeah.
short film that was 8 minutes long was like, fucking hell. And then suddenly you look at this epic. Obviously, it wasn't just him on his own. He's got a whole team
Yeah.
behind him.
Huge team.
But the work effort and everything, and the finding the locations and building the ship and finding the right actors and finding the, oh, my respect for filmmakers, I take my hat off to them. I really do. But more so the good ones than the bad ones. But
Absolutely.
but
That's
yeah,
1997 too, that's my birth year. And I think about the movies that are being made, and I'm like, wow, movies like throughout all the time. I started during the pandemic watching older films, that I'd never
mm,
seen before, and like ones in the 60s and the 40s, even going back to Alfred Hitchcock. And like learning about films that what's brought us to today's, like film, so like not film society, but where we film industry standard of where we are today. But God,
yeah.
I love Titanic. I love anything James Cameron, and you better believe I'm so excited for the future avatars. Oh
Oh,
my
yeah, I'm
goodness.
looking forward to them as well. Very much so. And there's the final monologue of the second one, The Way of Water, where he says, this is our home, this is our fortress. And it was just like, I mean, that's like a rally call for every indigenous tribe community around the globe, those past, present, and future. And you're just like, and those words were just like, yeah, I was lucky enough to see it. Have you been to the IMAX in Waterloo yet?
No, but I work in Waterloo. Maybe I need to. Does IMAX mean a big screen?
Yeah. It's the big,
Oh, that's that big circle one, isn't it?
yeah, by Waterloo Station. Yeah,
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 I work in Waterloo Station. I walk past it most days. Oh my
yeah. I
God.
cannot recommend watching a film like because I saw Oppenheimer there, and oh my God, it just I thought any other experience of watching this film in any other cinema is just kaput. Now,
Yeah.
honestly, that experience of if anyone is in London and he wants to watch a film at the IMAX, especially something like epic as Oppenheimer, Titanic, Avatar, anything like that at all, just honestly get yourselves there. It's just an experience you'll never forget. That's what I'll say. That's what I'll say.
I watched Oppenheimer on the direct flight from London to Perth on a screen in front
Oh,
of me, and it still hit just as much. Oh my God. I think when you're
oh,
that close to a screen anyway, the screen feels as big as an IMAX.
yeah. Oh God, it's incredible. Yeah. So no, seriously, get yourself there and see if you can get Oppenheimer tickets if it comes back. I'm sure it will. They do reruns of it quite frequently. But yeah, also, now we could talk about Australian filmmaking like for ages. But
Absolutely.
the official first question for today, which is so in your case, where did it come from? The love of acting, the arts, being in this business. Where did it all start for you?
Where did it all start? Look, I think I'm one of those actors that uh, fell into the career because they just love doing it so much. You know, growing up, all my aunties and uncles, or whoever was around, like everyone sit down, I put on a show, everyone to sit down on the couch, and I'd, put on some form of funny costume and got all my whoever wanted to be involved in the show to do something. I've given out lines, everyone's and action, and we're going ahead. I just kept doing it. Naira, can you MC this? Naira, can you be on student leadership? Like all these little opportunities that came out through primary school and high school. Naira, can you learn this part? Naira, do you want to try and learn some flute for the best concert band? Oh, do you want to sing Rock and Bird with the Rock and Bird? Rock and Bird? Rock and Bird. Twiddly diddly twiddly diddly. No, it's not called Rock and Bird. It's called Rock and Robin.
Welcome, Robin.
Yes, Rockin' Bird. Who is Rockin' Bird, Naara? And getting you sing with the big band, like opportunities just kept coming. Like Naara could do that. Like even no matter that, I think that was just there wasn't like a set question, but Naara could be the solution, whatever it was, from a very young age. I was just like, Naara, oh, Naara might be able to do that, and it just started coming that way. I'd just be doing just all these opportunities just started like falling into my hands. I was just like, oh gosh, I'd be awful in the classroom. Like not like behavior wise, but just like, oh, no idea about a test, no idea about the academics of things a lot of the time. But oh
Mm.
my gosh, get me up on an audience in front of, 600 people at the biggest assemblies of the year. Like I'd be nailing it and everyone would be like it just, there's so many great things that, I look back on my life and I'm like, wow. And I fell into a career about it by accident. I ended up
Yeah,
going to university. I didn't even get an ATAR. An ATAR is similar to, I think, to your GCSE score.
yeah.
And I got an ATAR of zero, which was crazy to me because I failed music. And now I look at my career in reflection. I'm like, wow, music has been one of the most biggest, like parts of my world and income streams, what I do, what I love to do, what I'm passionate about. And the fact that I failed music in college, like it just shows how much the system needs to be changed. But everywhere I
Mm.
look throughout my life, there was never like, oh my God, I'm going to be an actor when I grow up. When I grew up, I wanted to be a receptionist because I love talking to people. I love answering the phone. Hello, welcome to the dentist surgery. You're speaking with Naara. What a dream job! What a dream job! Or a chef on the Navy. God, like, the neurodivergency was so early, like visible to me early on, but I had no idea.
No, no, that's
But
great.
yeah, I think that was kind of just the way it went for me.
Yeah, no, because funny enough, I watched your show reel actually prior to today, and you did an advert about I can't remember the company's name, but you were there with your like little clipboard going, it's like, Here's how we can help you. Here's how we can help you." So I can't remember the company, but I just thought, and you just said there you want to be a receptionist. Well, you got to play one anyway in an
I
advert.
know.
So,
I got to
yeah.
be a nurse for that one. And I remember I was helping an older friend of mine who just had a hip replacement. And the little kid went past on her bike and was like, "That's the nurse from TV." And I was like, "Oh God, if I was an actual nurse, help that patient, God." I'm just an actor.
Yeah, no, I mean, and of course, like you do all these sort of things, but you were Young Australian of the Year for 2024 as well. Yeah, how did that come about?
Yeah, for Tassie, that was, oh God, that was an exciting time. And I think the amazing thing about those awards is no one really ever feels like they deserve it. I do a lot of work back in Australia towards First Nations advocacy and holding a lot of space towards that. We are only 3% of Australia, so Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander don't make up a lot of the country's population.
Okay.
We're a very multicultural nation, so I try and hold a lot of space, especially on social media about like this is what's happening. I want to make people, feel differently about what they see, what they think about Aboriginal people, rather than just what they see on the news. And so I've done a lot of work towards that. Done a lot of work towards diversity in casting of theatre and of screen, and particularly calling out companies when things don't seem right. Like the what's it called? The casting announcement come out and you're like, oh, so we're going there again. And I'm like, and it's funny because I'll go back and I'll flick through my emails and I'll go look at the original casting briefs and I'll be like, we believe in the diversity of Australia, encourage all ethnicities, all backgrounds, all disabilities, all anyone, with everything to apply. And then you look at what they put up and I'm like, that's a bit interesting, very different to what your statement said. So I've done a lot of work towards that back in Australia as well. And I think that award, I didn't feel like it was, something I necessarily deserved or wanted to have. Someone wrote the entire application for me and nominated me and put it all in, and I was like, that's that done. And I'm really passionate about what I do, and I'm a voice for people, and I want to, I'm for things. I'm not against things. I want to support people. I always want to hold a lot of space and
Sure.
learn from others. And I feel like, that just really represented a lot about what I was doing and what's yet to come. I think Young Australian of the Year means there's lots more to come in general.
Yeah.
And it was a nice little flag to be like, okay, I'm on the right journey.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I watched your what's it called? The speech that you do after you not thank you speech. What's it called? Acceptance speech.
Acceptance speech. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Acceptance. Yeah. So my mind went blank for a second there. Your acceptance speech, where you said, you feel very privileged that that as an actor, you can just help people forget about stuff for a little while. I'm there to help you just forget about problems and help you forget about anything that's going on in your life. And it's our job to help give you that entertainment, and from that entertainment, we also give people hope, like story specific, of course, giving people hope, giving people excitement, giving people a chance to grieve or just do something
Yeah.
to help people. And I think, there's, and I say this, I've said this probably in the last two episodes, really, but I'm going to keep saying it anyway because it's absolutely true. Art in general, actors, musicians, everything, we change the fucking world. We really, really do.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so I think it's great that you brought that up in your speech that you can help people, just help them in some way through art, just forgetting about stuff for 2 hours, but actually helping them through stuff, if that makes sense, right?
Absolutely. And I think, whether you, jump on the tube in the morning and you listen to your favorite artist or had a long
Mm.
day at work and you put an episode of TV on to whilst you cook your pasta for dinner, I think there's something about the arts that we all fall to, at the highest points of our
Very true.
lives and also the lowest points. I've got playlists for every feeling that I go through under the sun, and I'm sure, people who are just as much not involved with the arts would do as well. And
Mm.
there's a recognition, I think, for artists that you don't actually realize until you think about life without using art.
Mm. Exactly. Yeah, we change the fucking world. We are so
Amen. I love that. We change the world.
we do. We absolutely do. So you're currently at the very, as I mentioned in the intro, the prestigious Royal Academy of Music, right? And that's how. Yeah.
Yes, that's one graduated now, but yes, I'm
I'll
done.
graduate now. Sorry, I beg your pardon. So yeah,
No,
so
no,
you
totally
spent,
fine.
so you went to the Royal Academy of Music. You moved over from Australia to be here to study, etc. And in fact, if you go on, I saw on your website actually, you put like a little sample of like the timetable that you had, and it's like a full-on
Yeah,
intense timetable. I mean,
I know.
any drama school schedule is intense, whether it's 3 year course or 1 year course. It's crazy. But yeah, tell me about your time at the Royal Academy of Music. How did it go?
I loved Ram. I think about my life and the way it worked. My life. It's not like I'm 80 years old and looking at a reflection, but I didn't get into any of the drama schools in Australia. I auditioned because everyone said, "Naira, you should go to drama school." So I was like, "Okay, great. Sure, I'll audition." I auditioned for VCA, for WAPA, for NIDA, all the big ones,
Yeah.
and I look back and I didn't get into any of them. And, like a couple of months later, I booked my first national tour and I walked into an agent and said, "Hi, I've got this contract. Can you help me?" And I was signed to them within 24 hours. Like
Wow.
everything went the wrong way for me. And you know, then I spent a couple of years in the industry working, auditioning, and going the wrong way about things. Felt like I was building a house without knowing how going to building school a little bit. So I
Mm.
got a couple of years into the industry, and I was like, man, I'd love to do drama school. Like the night before Deadlock, which is that Amazon TV, Amazon Prime show, I was googling like, how do you be on TV? If I'd been to drama school, at least I'd know a little bit about it. And, I got to, and when I'd heard about RAM, previously when I moved to England when I was 20 years old to do a semester exchange, I was like, RAM is the one. There was something about me that just felt right. I hadn't gotten to RAM two times before. I tried four times in total, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll give it one more go. And I had a friend who got into the drama school and rang me at 3 a.m. Australian time and said, Naomi, you got to give it one more shot. He
Ouch.
went downstairs the next day, spoke to Dan Bowling, who runs the course there, incredible musical director of the West End. Doesn't take long to read his books about everything he's done in his career towards Cats, towards The Lion King, towards Les Mis, Phantom, all of these incredible shows. He's Claude Michel Schoenberg's MD for
He's done
so
it all,
many.
mate. He's done it
He's
all.
done it all. And went in and said, "Hey, I've got a friend from Australia. You should give her one last shot," or something similar to that effect. And lo and behold, I was in, and I was moving to London, and it was everything I wanted from the degree. So everything I wanted from drama school training. It's 1 year, and it's condensed as heck. Oh my God, it's 52 contact hours a week. I was there non-stop.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was just every hour I could get out of that place, always there with the coffee, always there practicing late. Like this was my one opportunity in my life that I got to really focus on my craft for a year. I'd done so many fun, cool things, but I was so broad. But I was like, no, this year's for me and my craft. And it was learning new monologues. It was singing new songs I'd never sung. It was changing briefs of like, oh, Naarah, you're funny, you're size 16, and you're so present, mate. You got to play the side funny roles. I was like, no, let me sing Veronica from Heathers. Let me learn some Christine Daae from the Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
I took some real self-placed and industry-placed boundaries off my career and
Yeah.
what the world had said I could be for a year, and let myself find new things. And it was really, really great in so many ways. And the teachers we have. I was thinking last night about singing for Ramin Karimloo and his comments to me after that, and how much that affected me forever. And those little things, like I used to watch him on the show must go on
Yeah.
as with him and the Phantom of the Opera, and the fact that he was sitting in my classroom. We had Imelda Staunton in for the day, things that I would
Wow.
just never forget. She writes all her lines out every day, and you better believe what I do now. I write my lines out, because if Imelda Staunton can do it, and then I went and watched her in Hello Dolly a few weeks later, back when I was on at the Palladium, one of the best things I've ever seen in London or in my lifetime. But
Yeah.
yeah, I write my lines out now because if it works for Imelda, and Imelda, it works for me.
Yeah, yeah, that was a technique I learned, which was that you write your. So it's like if you, I think I'm right in saying this. It's like you write just your bits out, and then it's
Yep.
a forward slash, and then your next line. So it's not your scene partner's line, and then you just run your lines literally like a robot, literally just going blah 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 blah. Blah. For example, to be or not to be. That is the question. Where does never the mind sings an hours of outrageous fortune. You just say it. There's no emotion attached to it or anything. Which funny enough, I learned that from a fellow Aussie. We had a teacher called Andrew Davidson, also from your home country of Australia. I can't remember where. I think it was Sydney. I'm not sure, but I could
Yep.
be getting that wrong. Sorry, Andrew, if you're watching. But he taught us a lot about Meisner and stuff, and he was just a
Yep.
fantastic teacher, and taught us to write all our lines down. It actually helps. And once you get to that place, I don't know if you had that experience, but when you get to a place where you just know all your lines and you literally just go brah, and you're not thinking about them, and then suddenly you're in a place where you can start playing with the
Yep.
part, and you're not thinking about, oh shit, what's my next line? And then you just absolutely just have so much more fun with it, because then you discover the character
Freedom.
more than anything else.
Yeah.
Was that part of it as well?
Yeah, look, there's so many techniques and pathways towards this, and I have always struggled with line learning and text, but I'm a words girl. Oh, I
Mm.
cannot tell you how much I love words and text. And I've kept every single card I've ever been given. Actually, there's one here that
Yeah.
I received, which I was literally reading over, and like just what it means to me. And there are so many lessons in life that take time to learn, and I'm so excited for the journey you're on, how to see how far you'll go. And I was like, and then it says my Moana, because that's a quote from Moana from Lin-Manuel Miranda. And I was like, wow, see how far I'll go. Sure, it's only a reference from a Disney movie, but I was like thinking about that and like, see how far I'll go. And I think that's just a wordplay on like, wow, what's the best that can happen? we think often like put ourselves in like, oh, but I can, oh, but what they are? How far can you go? What's the best that can happen? And I think about words a lot, and line learning's always been a hard one for me. But I think there is such freedom when it's there and it's in the pocket, and then it feels fresh and new. And I'm so interested in Meisner technique. I actually want to go over to the neighborhood playhouse in New York City,
Mm.
and oh, it just feels so delicious to go over there and study Meisner for their summer program for about 6 weeks. So Meisner's something I've never really done properly. Had a little bit of a taster of it, Ram, but
Yeah.
I'd love to go and do Meisner properly because I'm so interested in that work.
Yeah, we did like a proper intensive Meisner with Andrew for about 6 weeks or so like that. Yeah, it was
Oh,
really, really interesting because before that I was like, Meisner, I don't get him, what is it? And then by the end of it, it was like, oh, okay, now I know what he's all about.
yeah.
He literally wants you, so in sort of in a nutshell, from my experience of it, so he wants you to get to a place where I think Meisner's tone is an as if. So like he's from the Lee Strasberg sort of like the Stanislavski sort of apprentices of method acting, and method acting isn't what we think it is. I mean, I did another episode talking to Alam Orion about that, and he talks about, so Meisner's all about as if, and so you sort of go into a scene as if you were that person, and then that gets the emotion or the gravitas or whatever it is that you need to get there. But another part of it is, when you sit down and you just repeat and you just say things to another person, you go, how are you? How are you? How are you? I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. You're good. I'm good. You're good. Yeah. And then eventually you get to a point where you just switch off, and he
Yep.
kept saying, don't make it interesting. And you go, what? So it's like, what you said there, how are you? You made it sound interesting. It's like, well, I'm just saying, no, 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 don't make it interesting. Just say it. Just say it. How are you? Say it. How are you?
How are you?
How are
How are
you?
you?
How are
How
you?
are you? How
Yeah.
are you?
Yeah. And then you just go
Yeah.
back and forth, back and forth. And then you get to a point where you're not thinking about making the lines interesting or making like,
Yeah.
got to add weight to this. There's like, no, fuck that. You're talking to another person, and that's it. That's it. That's all you gotta do. But
It's
yeah,
so freeing, hey.
yeah, and that's yeah. Funny enough, do you know who Jonathan Price is?
Where do I know that name from?
He is he's in slow. He's done so much. He's done Slow Horses. He's Pirates of the Caribbean. He's Keira Knightley's father.
Cool. No,
Yeah,
I know that movie, but wow.
yeah. Honestly, he's done so much. He's done like yeah, he's done all the Shakespeare's and everything. But yeah, he told a story. I was lucky enough to be at a Q&A that he did a few weeks ago, and he said the amount of time I sit down with actors and they're doing their lines and they're trying to make stuff happen. I just go, no, 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 just talk to me, just talk to me, and they go, what? Just talk to me. Say the lines if you're talking to me, and then they go, oh, so that's what that scene's all about. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's Meisner-esque anyway.
Wow.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
doing like the
Just say
process
it.
of it. Yeah, which I think is great. That was a big, big help. So thank you, Andrew, again, if you're listening. But so yeah, so you're sort of training there. So this is a sort of a newish sort of question. What would you say was the difference between Nay-ah-rah on day one of RAM compared to Nay-ah-rah on the last day of RAM?
Wow, what an interesting insight. Wow, that's like I haven't thought about that as a particular question, but that's so interesting. They are on day one to the end of RAM. There is lots of work to do, I think. I think that's what Naarah would say at the end of RAM. Even after doing drama school for a year and giving it all I had, there's always more.
Mm,
I think would be the first thing. Coming into RAM, I just left a national tour. I had a clause in my contract. I was on tour around Australia for a year and a half, unless I got into the Royal Academy of Music, and at which point I was leaving Australia and leaving the tour in August to go and move to London. You
wow.
know, I was leaving work to go to school to learn how to get work. Like even that is a thing. I'm like, wow, this everything goes backwards in my mind in my career, but. I'm not saying I went from a total high to a total low, but it really showed me about what I need to do in the world, and it burned the fire even more within me to know that I'm so capable of great things in this world and so capable of life as a creative on the daily, and making it work on the days where it's amazing and the days where it's awful. And the days where it's awful, I see the struggle completely. And any actors listening to this, I think it's so good to say, to know that you're never alone in this. There are so many actors and creatives going through exactly what you're going through.
Mm.
In the lows and the in-betweens when you're so worthy of great gigs, but you don't have them right now, and the work doesn't change within you. You're still so good at what you do, whether it's been months or weeks or years even without a gig. But
Mm.
end of RAM really, and I went straight from the end of RAM back to Australia. I didn't even graduate. I actually graduated with distinction, which I've learnt recently. I need to say more because I've never been an academic in my life. I think about my ATAR score, as I said earlier. I got a bloody zero. I'm not even available to get into university in Australia with that score. And I just graduated with distinction by one of the top music schools in the world. And I think about that comparison and what really is possible if you put your mind to it and find, your pathways that are meant for you.
Exactly.
And I'm like, wow, no, I did graduate distinction. And I think we hide in shame sometimes about what we're good about, what we're good at doing. And I've been to be like, no, Naarah, you're a great artist and you bring so much to anything you touch. And I think it's been better for me to, and also I think that's been something I really learned from Ram is embracing my artistry, embracing who I am as a brand.
Big
I am
time.
an artist, I'm not a musical theatre performer. I'm not a radio host. I'm not a podcast guest. I'm an artist. I'm a creative. I live and breathe the arts in so many forms. After this, I'm finishing a poem that I need to write for my first publication back in Australia. Like
Wow.
I think about how broad my career is and the work is that I do, and I'm like, wow, yeah, there's not one thing that I do, and that's okay. And it really going to drama school really affirmed me in that, I think.
Yeah, yeah, fantastic. Yeah, you go on an experience, and it's very true. It's a bit of a cliche, but it's true. So, the journey that you go through from day one up until
Oh,
the last thing, you think you're just turning up, do your classes, and go home. It's like, and by the end of
yeah,
it, you're like, whoa,
yeah,
wow,
yeah.
I'm a completely different person. Yeah,
Absolutely. And I got so humbled so many times. I think we don't talk about that enough out in drama school and how like, wow, okay, this one's not for me. That's not for me. That's not for me. Cool. Okay. Oh my God, that's also not for me. That's for someone else. And you also really learn how good this industry is and how great other actors are and
Oof.
how attractive we are too. Like when you sit and you see 30 performers sing, you're like, holy shit, you guys are hot.
Yeah, yeah. I remember seeing like passing by the MTs a lot and going, just hearing their voices. I'm going,
Whoa.
man,
Yeah.
whoa. How do,
When you hear tenors belting those B flats, it's like, oh my, hi.
you hear like a lovely aria or something like altos like alto, soprano, mezzo soprano, whatever it is, and then you
Yeah,
can hear them just like glide through these songs and
yeah.
completely effortless. And I'm going, where the fuck have you been hiding this whole time?
Literally, when everyone pulls out like Joanna with like from Sweeney Todd with that little like bird bit, I'm like, oh, delicious,
What?
just like delicious.
Yeah.
But I could never sing that. Maybe not never. Like I'm not putting boundaries on myself, and I'm like, that's
No,
not my
no,
sort of
no.
role. But I'm like,
That's never.
wow. When someone comes in and they're like that classical, lyrical soprano and do blah, 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 but up top like three octaves, I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, give it to me, mama.
Oh, what's that song from Sweeney Todd? I was Greenfinch and Linnet Birds.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry, Green
Yeah,
Vagina, but that's the one I meant. Sorry, it's
yeah.
Joanna. I hear you, Joanna.
Yeah.
That's the one. That's the boy song. I'm thinking of Green Finch and Little Bit. Yes, you're so right.
Oh,
Thank you for
yeah,
the
that song.
MT correction there.
No, no, no,
All the
no, no.
Sondheim fans would have been listening and be like, "Oh my God, that's wrong."
Nah, it's all good. No, that one especially when it's done beautifully well, that you're just like, wow. You
Yeah,
see why this is such a great song.
you
But
love a little cadenza.
cadenza exactly. Speaking of singing, that brings us, I think, on to a gig you did. Were you at Ram when you did Our Country's Good? Were you sort of studying and performing at the
No.
same time?
So I was in rehearsals for the final summer show for Into the Woods. I was
Yeah,
playing four roles, which was so fun. I've never played more than one role in my life before. So
crazy.
I really, I think we think about this, quickly on drama school castings. I thought, like, oh, I didn't get the witch. Oh, I thought everything was over because I didn't get the witch, and I'm such a witch. And like that's me as a caster. I thought, oh my God, of course I'm the witch. And Ram like drama school can really throw us some all forms of like curveballs. And I think I'm really grateful to look back and say I'm so glad I didn't get the witch. I got something else which I never would have thought. playing those four roles, I was like, wow, this is such an opportunity to learn to do so much in one show, to create four different people. And I'll never forget someone coming to see the show, a friend of mine's little sister, who thought that was played by different actors. And I
Mm.
was like, I have won something that I will never be able to achieve. And sure, I'm sure another production of Into the Woods will come out maybe one day and I'll get to play the witch and that'll be fun and great and I'll have the
Yeah.
time of my life belting those numbers. Will I probably ever get the opportunity to play four roles, four distinctively different roles? No, and drama school casting sometimes isn't necessarily what's best for you. It's what's better for you in the long run. So what's best for you now, but better for you in the long run. And I've got such a skill set from that. And also, I thought I got one of the smallest castings in the summer school, and then I was the first person out of the company to book,
Mm.
in London. So I think, and to any actors going through drama school right now listening to this, like drama school casting is, everyone thinks it's this big deal, but you get in what you put out. You get in what you put out. How about you put in what you get out? No, what is that? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
You get out what you put in. Yeah.
Yes!
Yeah.
Oh my God, third time lucky.
But yeah, it's funny because when you do your drama school like shows, it's a very unique process. You audition knowing you're going to get a part at the end of it,
Yes.
and our tutor said, "Look, this is a very unique experience. So when you do start auditioning, don't assume that you're going to get the part, which sadly is a given. But you just got to do your best once you're out there." But yeah, I remember. Like, did you have to do self tapes and stuff for that, or was that all in
No,
person?
we had no auditioning whatsoever for the summer school. For the summer show. It
Whoa.
was all from what we'd done throughout the year. So Dan Bowling, amazing guy, just sat down over the holidays and started putting it together. And he knows us very well. He's seen us sing every week for the entire degree. He
Oh, cool.
knows where we're at. He knows what we're capable of. He knows how we work. He knows what we've done in straight plays. He knows what we've done in every improvisation classes. He knows how we are in dance classes. And then he just puts it all together and it's a surprise. So we don't even get to audition at RAM, which some people, there's lots of perks and lots of, minuses to that, sure, I'd think. But I think it's really interesting to just let it go and to be in someone else's hands because then you can't think about, oh, what didn't I do? What wasn't I? You just did, you were who you were as an artist for the year and you've got an opportunity to be this role in this show. What a blessing. We got to
Exactly.
reframe that. Like, what a blessing. I was so blessed to play Jack's mum, Cinderella's mum, the giant, and the granny. And I look at that, I just, when I first got it, I was like, wow, they really said, here, let's sweep up the rest of the parts and give them to Nay-ah-rah. And that was my
Not at
first
all.
thought.
Not at
And
all.
now I'm like, I love that. I was actually, to answer your actual question, I was in rehearsals for those four roles into the woods, and I'm a technological script girly. I have everything on four score, and it's all really notated, really lovely. Anything changes, I'm like, great, slay, done, easy fix. And I remember I saw my phone drop down because I signed really early in
Mm.
the degree. I felt right about an agent almost straight after about the agent showcase, and he just felt right. So I was one of the first to sign because I was like, that's it. I just knew he was the right guy. So I'd signed way before we'd even finished drama school, which everyone's individual in that journey, and that worked really well for me. So I was already getting auditions, and I was like, this is great because like, I want to do this. London, I think once I started getting into the last term of drama school, I was like, now this last term is for me. I'm setting myself up now for the industry and for London. Who am I going to meet? Who am I going to talk to? What are my networking opportunities? Who can I sing for? Who can I get in the door to see this show that's going to help me stay in London? Whether that's, my side hustles, whether that's my, acting. Like, it was like, what can I get out of this? This isn't drama school anymore. This is Nay-ah-rah. It's time to work for Nay-ah-rah. And I saw that little notification drop down on my iPad on my Foursquare, and I was like, and it said Nay-ah-rah auditioned for potential Aboriginal part in London. And there was something that just came over to me that came like fully over me. And I was like, oh my God, I'm fine. Like, I'm
Mm.
staying in London. There was something about that email which I was just like, no, something's happening here. There's something in the air, and I don't know what it was. It was just an email notification. I glanced it, and for an Aboriginal part at the Lyric Hammersmith, and I was like, the Lyric Hammersmith.
Wow.
Oh my, the Lyric Hammersmith.
Hammersmith. Yeah.
That it all started, and I barely glanced at what in notes. I can't believe I read this in notes. Bruce Guthrie, I love you so much. I think you're an incredible director, and I'm sorry if you're listening to this. I'm not on my iPad during notes. I promise, like just looking at other things or playing Candy Crush. But I remember glancing that email and just giving it one quick read in notes, and I was like, everything's gonna be fine. And I went in for the auditions, and I because it's funny because you're not allowed to audition in Tech Week at RAM. It's a very strict rule. You hear it on day one.
Oh yeah, yeah,
No
yeah.
auditions in Tech Week because it's
Oh,
Tech Week. It's the one week where we can't do auditions.
you got
And
to be
Dan
there. Yeah.
very graciously let me. audition in Tech Week for the Lyric
Wow.
Hammersmith. So I
That's
went out, I
amazing.
did all the thing for Rachel O'Riordan, who's the artistic director of the Lyric, and Timberlake, and I got an offer a few days later whilst I was in tech for Into the Woods with my four roles, which I loved doing. One of them actually made Australian, which was really fun. I did
Mm,
Jack's mum, Australian, and everyone loved it. Had like a hat and overalls or dungarees, as you guys call them.
yeah.
And I just remember thinking everything's gonna be just fine. And I went to Australia for a few weeks. I won a huge award back there, and then came back over and started day one of Our Country's Good.
Wow, brilliant stuff. Yeah, tell me about the experience. What was it like? Because it's one of those plays which, certainly, I don't know that much about, but I know the title, Our Country's Good, and it's a classic. I know that. So, from what I know about it, it's a play about, funny enough, set in Australia, and it's about the British convicts getting shipped over to Australia because that's essentially where they were dumped. But this is going back to the 1800s. And so, yeah, that's as much as I know of it. So, what is like the centerpiece of the play? What's the play about? What message does it have?
Oh, look, this play, I actually didn't know about it until I was auditioning for it,
Oh
and
yeah.
I gave the play a read, and wow, it's such a fascinating work. It actually won the Olivier for Best Play back in 1989 or 88, and it's such a great show. And I think there's such a core line through it of humanity and injustice, and those are two key words that we need to think about today more than ever. Like, it doesn't take much to scroll through the news and to have those two words in mind and think about humanity and what is going on in the world and the
Mm,
injustices that are going on in the world today and the things that people are letting slide, uh, the things that governments are letting slide around the world.
mm-hmm.
And it was a very important piece to be putting on in 2024 in London. And at the end of the day, some of these people were shipped across the entire world for stealing a loaf of bread. They would spend maybe the rest of their life in this country. Some of these people would get back after years. They would be on a boat for 8 months, some of them for stealing a sheep, some of them for doing the most ridiculous crimes, taking something out of someone's pocket and getting caught, eating a loaf of bread. Like, just there was so much about this, which the humanity of it, and obviously I had it such a different perspective. Like, I'll get to me later about the show, but I think there was something really really human about how this, how the official Australia in inverted commas actually started, and this penal colony of everyone getting shipped from, London for doing things that we should be human rights to just eat and exist and to love someone. People getting shipped for who they loved is crazy, and getting pulled apart from their families because someone else wanted to love them, and just the it was just, it's such a challenging look into leadership and to who and the rules of the time. And it was such an eye-opening play for me, I think, as well as obviously for everything Indigenous aside, of just like of British history and what it would have been like back then. It was a really interesting play, and honestly, it's just the themes of injustice and humanity, I think, and how much obviously, I don't look at that time. I look at that time in a very different light now in Australia's history because of it.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating because, funny enough, the I don't know sign language at all, but the sign language for Australia, British Sign Language, is this, and
Ah,
it's like, hang on a minute. And if anyone who's listening to this, you literally the gesture looks like you're picking something up and then throwing it on the other side of the room. So essentially dumping something there. And
yeah.
it's
That's
like,
really interesting.
and I thought, yeah, I was just thinking now, A, is that offensive? And B, is why Australia? Why is there's still an attachment to history through signed language of all things, even to this present day, as we're talking in 2025? It's and then we got plays like that. Yeah, it's
That's a
interesting.
really interesting observation. I only know the letters in Australian Auslan, we call it, but it's probably very similar.
Yeah.
That's really interesting to me because when you first did that, to me it looks like the Aboriginal shake a leg for kangaroo.
Ah,
because they're very, the men do a lot of kangaroo that looks very similar to that, and to me
okay.
that's the kangaroo symbol straight away. So that's
All
really
right.
interesting. But obviously picking up and putting down. Do you speak BSL?
No. I literally
Oh,
know just like two or three things, literally just that. And I think this is congratulations or
and
something.
then
I don't.
thank you. Yeah,
And thank
but
you. Yeah. No, other than that, no, I don't really do that.
yeah. I used to
Yeah.
teach choirs, and I always used to get them to do verses in sign language. So I think it's really beautiful to um, use the language wherever we can, and to especially because it's such an accessible language. Like I find, like when you're learning French, there's so much more to like we or like positioning of mouth, but it's quite easy to copy and to repeat, these gestures and these words. So I thought it was really inclusive and great to use Auslan or BSL back in Australia. But that's really interesting. What an interesting perspective. I can't wait to look more
Yeah.
into that. But hey, there's a lot about, I've looked at things so differently. Even before, yeah, you were talking about seasons. Now that I've lived in London for a year and a half, on day one of spring, you feel a difference. On the day one of spring here in London, you're like, oh, cool, okay. Like the birds sing different songs. Think that everything is visually so different. Day one of winter, you're like, oh, whoa,
Mm.
okay. Jackets, thermals. I
Cold.
can feel it.
It's cold.
Yeah, it's like it's very like there's four chapters in London all year round. Sometimes there's a little bit of a maybe we got a bit of sun here today. Oh, interesting. But on day one of each of those things, you feel it different. In Australia, oh my God, I don't know why we still adopt the four season system. You got like where I'm from in the Kimberleys, we've got two seasons. We've got wet and we've got dry. It rains for 6 months and then it doesn't rain for 6 months. There's no winter, there's no jackets. You've got thongs, singlets, and shirts and an aircon on for the whole year, and it rains for 6 months and it doesn't. Why the heck do we have British system of it's summer, it's winter? No, it's not. We got colonized by England, so England said we should have four seasons a year. And like
Yeah.
things like that, which I now look at so differently because of colonization. I think the word colonization we need to talk about so much more as the international as an international thing.
Yeah.
The most I've obviously spoken to a lot of Brits about this role and about this play, and I've been so interested about how much England, like the average Brit, doesn't know about their history, their country's history towards this, and how much they don't know about Australia, but they can tell you all about World War Two.
Mm.
Even like with victories and all sorts of, of like learning about England and, about Britain being great. And what, for me, I look in Britain's history and I don't find a lot of it all that great.
Nope.
I look at the United Kingdom. I'm a words girl. I've just started speaking and learning to people from Wales, Scotland, and Ireland. There's not much anything about uniting going on here.
No, we're
And
very different. We're
I look
very
at yeah, right? I look at the Commonwealth. What is the wealth of the common?
there is
There
none.
is no wealth of the common. To me, the wealth of the Commonwealth is the monarchy that sits all over, so many of these countries. There's so many of these things which I'm like, wow, I see the world so differently now because I've lived in London for a year and a half. And doing this play really brought a light to that. Like that role, Kalara. If you didn't see this show, I debuted the Aboriginal part. So this play has great reviews. Timberlake's an incredible writer.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant seeing her work in all of its forms. You go to the National and you flick through her section of the National Library with all of the plays. It's quite fantastic.
Mm.
And they had this Our Country's Good had really good reviews back in the 80s, but it was always but the Aborigine, in inverted commas, is what
Yeah.
the original role was called, never sat right. It doesn't do it justice. So this basically, if anyone doesn't know Our Country's Good, it's the first fleet arriving in Sydney, Gadigal country in the 1700s, and there's this one part, but in the original play, well, which is what I ended up playing and changing and creating something completely new, of the Aboriginal perspective of what was happening. So the central of the play is we see all these convicts and governors and soldiers and people in command, and obviously everyone not. So there was basically two classes of people that came to Sydney at that time. And then there's this one character removed from the story, often played by someone black in the show, black in the cast. So it was never. I'm actually the first person to play it authentically as an Aboriginal person, which is
Wow.
crazy to me.
Wow.
Right? Unbelievable. And it's really like it was a really interesting piece, but it always needed a bit more work. And obviously last year we got the chance to really dig in with that. We had Ian Michael come over from Sydney Theatre Company. If you don't know Sydney Theatre Company, it's kind of like Australia's version of the National. It's insane. So they've put on something you might know here is Sarah Snook
Sarah Snook, yeah.
oh my God, what was that? Where she did so many roles. It's just gone out of my brain. That Sydney Theatre Company. Oh, listeners, come on! I wish you could jump in and tell us right. Oh, it's not the importance. It's the pictures of Dorian Gray or something. Oh,
But point to being honest.
no, it's
Uh,
Dorian Gray. It's something.
picture of Dorian Gray. Yeah, I think it was
Yeah,
called
yeah.
Dorian or something, or Dorian or Gray, or I don't know.
Oh, it's gone out of my brain. And listeners, I'm so sorry if you're listening to this and you know exactly what it is. My brain holds 1,000 tabs at any one time, and that it's something of Dorian Gray.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I'm gonna Google
yeah,
it.
please get Google it right now.
Okay.
But like Sydney Theatre Company brought that over here, and its reviews were insane. It was in at the London Palladium, I think it was, maybe the Palladium. No, something maybe a bit smaller.
Yeah.
London. Oh, I
Yeah,
can't remember.
one show, 26 characters. This is one review here. Sarah Snook shares the stage with herself in, yeah, it's just Dorian Gray.
It is just Dorian Gray.
Yeah, or the picture of Dorian Gray. Yeah, that's
Oh,
it. That's
slay.
it.
So the picture of Dorian Gray. So Sarah, that's Sydney Theatre Company, and Ian helped out a lot on that one. It's Kip's original idea as well. But like Ian, I was getting to Ian Michael, so there's a whole way around to come back to Ian Michael. Ian Michael was this incredible director, very astounded, very renowned. I've
Renowned,
just
yeah.
blended so many words.
Yeah.
Renowned director in Australia, always working on such incredibly exciting works. And he came over and worked a lot with Timberlake for a couple of weeks here on the new script and involving language. So I had so many words in Gadigal as well, which was really exciting. So getting to speak Aboriginal language over here on this stage was huge. My goal as an actor was to unfold arms, and my goal, and it was quite honestly. I know people have different lines about blurring about where's the actor, where's the character, and honestly, most nights, so that was Naarah up on that stage, holding space, taking time, calling things out exactly was that what they were. Like, this is our land, taking space and saying things as I would say them, because like as I was saying them live then and there, and being like, this is something that needs to be known and to be heard and to be felt and to be seen. And it was just a huge, overwhelming time for me, and it was a really short season. Actually, it was only about a month and a half. But I don't know if it's ever going to happen again. But it was a momentous piece to be a part of, and no one saw that coming when I moved over here to do drama school, then to walk out and to be a solution, to come back to me in high school. That we didn't know what the problem was, but Naarah was the solution. Originally I was trying to find someone Aboriginal and a man, and then to play this role, because historically it always has been a man. In the real paint up traditional Aboriginal view of what we think an Aboriginal person looks like. You see the elders on the top of the mountain with one leg up on the knee, with a spear or a boomerang, or the didgeridoo yidaki in the back or something. And it was really, really huge to be there, to stand on that stage and to hold so much space, and to bring new light to this important perspective on history.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because there's just going back to what you said earlier about British history, and there's a film. My friend of mine went to see the film Napoleon recently with Joaquin. Well, was it this year or last
Oh
year? No, it was last
yeah,
year. I think it was last year. I think it was. So Joaquin Phoenix played Napoleon. Who was at Waterloo, etc.
yeah.
And to be honest, I don't know all the details about that at all. But she went to see it at sort of like a local independent cinema around here, where it's like a little bit bigger, and you have chairs, you can have wine at the table and all that kind of stuff. It's lovely. And there's a group of older gents to her left whenever like it was like British, like, because I think, as far as I don't know my history at all. If anyone here who knows more about Waterloo and Napoleon, just bear with me. I don't know all the facts, but whenever it was like a moment of like British conquering or British pride or something, they would like get their wine and go "Whoa!" in the cinema. People are looking at them like, "Will you shut the fuck up? I'm trying to watch the film here," And there's a lot of like British stuff, and these guys were sort of like elderly, sort of. I think she said about in their 60s or 70s, I think, but and their generation, was, let's just say, not as PC as we are now in a way, or not as I don't want to use the words. What's the right word for it?
Woke.
That's not woke. Fuck that nonsense. No, but not as open, and not as the values have
Understanding.
and they significantly changed since then. And they were talking about how they were just like, "Hey, British pride, we're the best country in the world." And it's like, excuse me, have you looked over our history?
Yeah, Britain ain't that great, mate.
No, British Empire. We conquered, sadly, we conquered Australia for goods, for services, for
Yeah.
all this stuff. And people are going, and Rule Britannia is a song about shipping slaves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Everywhere. Like, and
yeah,
obviously you're just sitting there, you just want to watch a movie. I heard
yeah,
a fact literally last night with a friend out for a wine because I was talking about Brexit and about my visa and the differences that makes to me now and
yeah,
trying to get a job. I was auditioning for a commercial in Sweden and I'm basically out of the running now because of Brexit, which is crazy. But I
yeah,
heard a fact was like the most people that voted for Brexit, like for Brexit, that were pro Brexit, are now dead.
mm, yeah,
Like that's crazy to me. And like this idea of being proud of your country. And I think there is something to be proud of, I think,
of
in
course.
everyone's country and their identity and their cultural understanding of, where they're from and what that means to them, sure. But like there's so much to look at with England, which is like makes you question
Oh,
everything about
yeah. And
yeah, Britain. I feel weird singing that. Even God Save the King. Like I went to a rugby game in Twickenham for the first time,
yeah,
and Swing Low. I was
I
like,
was
you guys are
literally just about to
singing.
say that. I was literally about to bring that
No
up.
way.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I was sitting there and watching. Also, the amount of men in one place is crazy. Like, and
Oh,
I barely saw any POC and any women. It was quite an interesting perspective of the day.
it's
And I
very,
love sports.
very
I
masculine
love
rugby.
sports, but I couldn't
Yeah.
believe everyone in this room is just singing "Swing Low, Sweet Chariot." Like, do you guys know the origin of that
They
song?
don't. They don't. That's the problem.
Question mark?
It's a slave song, by the way. If anyone who's not aware, it's a song about shipping slaves, like Rule
Yeah.
Britannia. And you're going, oh, right. We are not as squeaky clean as we think we are. But then again, it's interesting because you have these, like you said there, about British pride and be proud of your country and all that, of course. But we're at this point now. God, this is turning into a political thing now. But about just you learn from mistakes.
Absolutely.
And much like life, you learn from mistakes and just all that stuff. Anyway, not to get too political, but I absolutely
No,
agree with what
I'm
you're
so
saying.
political, so it's great. I really enjoyed like chatting about all these things
Yeah,
because
no, for
I think a
sure.
lot of these topics need to be talked about more. And even someone who's, randomly probably walking the dog listening to this is thinking, wow, hadn't even thought of things like that,
Yeah,
So
for
I think
sure.
these kinds of chats are really important.
Oh yeah, no, of course, yeah. It's funny because not to get too political, but I remember waking up on the day of Brexit, and whether you were for or against it. Look, I'm not here to start an argument like that, okay? But I remember just waking up and just thinking, oh, we've remained. Oh,
Oh,
we're out,
oh, we're out.
and it's like, okay, was not seeing that coming. And then I
Mm.
remember putting on. I was what was I at the time? 2016. I was like, what was I? 20, 21, 22 at the time. And so I remember like everyone at that time went on Facebook and was like doing their thing. And I remember just putting on there, well, we're fucked.
Yeah.
And it's even to this day, God, nearly 10 years on from that vote now. That's crazy.
No way,
And
we are too, aren't we?
yeah, 2016. Next year will be 10 years. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's
Yeah.
crazy. Even
Yeah.
you jump over the pond and you see what's happening in America, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh,
And
dot,
it's 10 years
dot,
since Trump got in
dot.
as well for the first
Yeah, but I
time.
say 2016 would be Trump. Oh, goodness
Yeah.
gracious. That's what I mean. Like, it's such a, like, you look around the world right now and you see what's happening. And every day looking at the news with him, there's something to absolutely, whatever the word is for that inside.
Yeah.
And think, oh my God, someone's rights being taken away from a very important decision for something right now
Yeah.
because he's signing
There's,
a document she probably hasn't read.
yeah. God. Yeah. It's like old values of the country just like slipping in, and as you say, and then they sort of left their sort of dying wish there, and off they
Yeah.
go. Yeah, I don't know. That's one way of looking at it, anyway. But having said that, if Brexit hadn't happened, when I was at university, I wouldn't have got a gig as part of my degree to go to the National for 3 weeks and work on.
Cool.
It was to work on a play called "My Country: A Work in Progress." So if we didn't have Brexit, I wouldn't have that experience. So actually, in a way, it's like the universe going, yeah, but everything has everything. I don't know. The universe has got a plan for us all, but and sometimes we just look at things and go, why? Why is this happening?
Yeah.
And then afterwards you realize, oh, that happened because of that. And it's crazy. But yeah, but no, just going back to, I think, what started this off really, our country's goods. But sadly, I didn't see the show, unfortunately, but you said that your voice was used as part of the soundtrack. So people, so the soundscapes, some of it obviously was instruments and all that thing, but another part of it was you.
Yeah, that was really cool. I think once the composer like found out I was singing away, and because I was auditioning for Wicked at the time as well.
Oh
So
wow.
I'd be whilst I was, in the morning rehearsals of like singing, saying such serious lines. Then during the lunchtime, I would be, whilst everyone's out for lunch, I'd be in there practicing like The Wizard and I, and and getting like my tapes ready to go and everything, set and ready. I was like, oh, great. And once she found that out, I was like, oh my gosh, when did you come in? Because obviously, musical theatre is just a string to the bow. Is that a bow to the string? I've had so many moments like that today where I've had the wrong word round. The wrong word round. You know what? I love
Just, just,
words, and
ro-
today hasn't.
just roll with it. Just roll with it, mate.
Just we roll with it all. And once you found out I was a singer, I was like, oh, great. Like, why don't we? So this whole idea birthed of like, Kalara being, and Kalara, the word in Gadigal means always present. So it was like, wow, she could really hold such space as it goes through. And some of it was quite mournful, and some of it was really earthly and really, just deep and quite guttural. Guttural is actually a really good word, and she's a string player. So there was all of these beautiful textures going on, and it was Indigenous Aboriginal clapsticks as well.
Mm.
This real soundscape of Australia and of the outback, and yeah, and there was this Aboriginal voice crying out somewhat, like especially at times where I wasn't like being heard as much as I should be, and I'm seeing so many things happen in front of me. A lot of my gig on the actual show was actually sitting and watching and thinking, here you are talking about a man stealing bread in whilst he's in the jail, or whatever the jail was there, whilst you're stealing our land. And you notice, like, the one thing that I really like, I have to pass on visually about the show is when the first scene comes up and the first curtain, it's with the big iron, which is really heavy and real, like Britain, like the Union Jack flies up. You
Yeah.
see Australia untouched, or before it was even called Australia. This beautiful orange, deep, earthy desert. You see gum nut trees, and you see me standing on this horizon full of almost like an Uluru kind of sunscape of like, wow, it's earthy and it's green and orange, and it's just so like this. The set had so much. Oh, sorry, the set had such beautiful like landscape and texture, and earthy and dirt, and like it just felt so homely the moment the Union Jack, and the whole show changes once you see Australia. And then obviously as the show progresses, we see cans everywhere, so we see the trees dying, we see
Yeah.
everything breaking off, the leaves falling off, we see chairs being broken, alcohol cans everywhere. Like, you see that just as a painting of colonization as as the story progresses the entire time. And you remember, like, wow, at the start of the show we were here, and now we're here. And I am so present in the show as like Naarah, as Kalara 2024, seeing this as much as Kalara 1788, thinking, holy shit.
Yeah.
So, such an interesting perspective.
Yeah. I mean, it's just going off there, it sounds like the play's a really big, sort of, like, again, what's the word? Like a allegory to like colonialism or colonization.
Absolutely.
Colonization. I don't know what colonialism was. I probably just made that up. But
No, that's a word.
yeah, colonization. That's the word I was looking for. About how, and again, so that's what the British Empire was. You literally just went into a country. I mean, God knows what we did to India and all. And guys are start stealing all the jewels and then shipping them all back to Britain, and then selling them off for God knows how many shillings or pence or whatever it was at the time. Or yeah, there was pounds, there was sterling. God knows how much sterling that you did there. But it's like there you have there. It's just this beautiful country, and of course, like I said, I haven't been to Uluru just yet, but I will get there. I will get there, and seeing this beautiful area and everything, and again linking to another thing we were talking about earlier in Avatar 2,
Yeah.
particularly in the last sort of three quarters of the film. So just slight spoiler if anyone's going to watch it. There's this big like fight between like the heavy machinery of the sky people, the boats, the airplanes, and then you've got the indigenous tribes coming and using their ways and their methods. And I remember my mum was sat next to me, and she was, whenever you saw like a ship sinking or into this holy water or damaging the earth, she would just be like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
And it was just be like, and you sit there and think there's this beautiful land. And sadly, as many great leaders of the world, well, many leaders, not great at all, of this world, have literally just go in to take out, rip the soul out simply because they want some money. And to them,
Oh,
money is just, and it's true, money is the root of all evil, as the great saying goes, you know. And
yeah.
I think we need, and again, art, it changes the world. It makes you realize just how much stuff we can learn from history. Because, you know, I think it was, who was it, Churchill, who said, those who don't learn from the past or learn from history are condemned to repeat it. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think it was Churchill. Yeah, I think it was, anyway.
You're so right. Like even all the mediums like we've talked about today with Avatar and Our Country's Good. Like it's weird because you're seeing colonization happen without it putting a label on it,
Yeah,
and it's interesting in today's eyes to see the way the world is realizing history. And I think it's a really important thing to talk about and to learn more about. And I do
yeah,
the best I can to learn about everything going on in the world and to stay on top. But there's still so much more to talk about and to see and to hear and to know about. But it's things like that which really bring our eyes to it. But again, that's why we have artists, right? To bring our eyes to new stories and things we might know of in new lights. And I think that's something we hold the power, to do, which is so great.
yeah. I'm just going to Google that quote just to make sure I got that right. So those who, let's have a look. Those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Who said that? It is comedy. Okay, to George Santayana, who's a Spanish American philosopher, but Winston Churchill was often quoted. Okay, so one of the two. Yeah, Winston
Yeah,
Churchill's
yeah.
he's in the mix somewhere. But yeah, no, really interesting. So yeah, how was the run? So what would you say was no? Yeah, what would you say was like? Well, what did the play give you, and what do you think it took away from yourself as an artist and as a person?
Oh wow, you asked some really good questions, Oliver. Like these are really well thought out, like and so interesting. And they're so insightful. It's not like, what did you think of the show? It's very insightful to artistry. I think I love that you're so involved in the process and as yourself as a creative. I think that's really interesting.
Thank
But
you.
what did it give me and what did it take away? It gave me a new sense of purpose in London. I think I look at even me sitting here today, I've been here a year and a half, and I have done a huge innings already of London. And like if I was to moving home tomorrow back to Australia, I'm not. I would think, wow, Naarah, you've done so much. And
Yeah.
I've done so much in the Aboriginal space over here. And like a couple of weeks ago, I was at the British Museum for a repatriation ceremony of 32 Aboriginal ancestral remains returning from boxes and little bags in the bottom of the British Museum, Natural History Museum back to Queensland in Australia. And they think that's huge. And there's so many little things like that which I've been able to. Like a year ago tomorrow, I went and met the King and the Queen, and it's not every day you get to say hi, Camilla. I'm Nay-ah-rah, and I met her for the work I've done within Aboriginal space here in London, obviously back at my work in Australia.
Oh wow.
And there is so much that I think our country's good started with that and being like in holding space. And I think it gave me a purpose in London that I hadn't seen. A lot of people wonder in Australia, like, why is Nay-ah-rah going to London? She's going to the land of the colonizers, as quite frankly they say, and particularly my comment section about all my viral TikToks about me living over here and, the things that, happen on the daily.
As
And
just trolls ignore him, just idiots.
oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. I need to hire a moderator these days for all the white, straight, angry men that I've annoyed. Oh, it's very funny, but that's okay. But it
Yeah.
gave me a purpose in this country, It gave me like, wow, there's enough. I didn't just come here for drama school because when I first moved here, I was coming here for 9 months and moving back. All of
Ah,
a sudden, I had Our Country's Good, and I was like, heck, I think I'm staying. I think I'm staying for a little while. So I got my next visa, my graduate visa. I fundraised for that with one concert back in Australia, which I feel very lucky. Well, not lucky. I worked hard for it. I was like, I'm going to
of course.
fundraise for my next visa because who's got 5,000 Australian dollars sitting around, which is £2,500, maybe even more. I think it was than that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I was like, great, heck, I'm staying. That's sure. And the amount of things that I've done since it because of Our Country's Good and, interconnecting gigs and, oh, Naarah can do this, Naarah can do that. Again, just Naarah being a solution for questions we don't even know what the problem is sometimes. And I think what it like so that's amazing, and I live here now probably because of Our Country's Good. There's probably a chance I might have stayed. I might have gone home, if I didn't have Our Country's Good by now.
Yeah.
But what it took from me definitely, I think, is oh God, I think it took a long while to get back to my mental health. I think after that gig, it was 8 shows a week, and that's short. Like that's the normal musical theatre or show life of like we're doing 8 shows. Cool, you're meal prepping, you're sleeping, you're resting, you're focusing on the show.
Yeah.
That took so much from me mentally, and I think one of the main reasons why I wanted to come over to London is because if you look at my career back in Australia, I've done so much Aboriginal theatre, so many stories of colonisation, so many rules of the past. I've played these Aboriginal roles filled with trauma, filled with rules of the time that affect my day-to-day life, and just pulling on the absolute lows of Aboriginal history and Aboriginal identity. And this role wasn't, it definitely had a lot of that, unfortunately. And, I didn't at the time have, and I still probably don't have a circle around me that, that know me and like fully support me. I've got great friends here, but it was like, wow, I really, don't have a support circle here that I would have in Australia.
Mm.
And I think just the loneliness that Our Country's Good started in me, and I consider myself a popular loner. Like I know a lot of people, and a lot of people know me,
Mm.
but I spend so much time alone, and I think playing a role so isolating, it got to so many points in the show, in the rehearsals, where I was like, no one even looks at me on stage. I do the entire show by myself, because whenever I'd come on stage, basically everyone else would freeze. Basically, and everyone else would there was a play and then there was me, basically is how it was so isolating. Got about 4 weeks in, and I had this amazing voice coach come in called Tess, from the RSC. She's a
Mm.
voice coach, but she was my life coach, and she really got me over the line for this show. And she pushed me into the aloneness. She pushed me into the strength of, no, I can do this, and I can bring so much more from within me. And I had this little candle that she made me get, which I used to turn on before each show, and I'd say, "Old people, come with me today," and then I'd turn it off at the end of the show, like, "Thank you, Kalara is done. We are de-rolling." De-rolling had to become a big thing, and
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Yeah.
so much of this show was so connected to me and my family's history. There's one day I came to rehearsal, and when you're in the drama rehearsal room and there's all these photos on the wall of like, oh, you're doing the 1920s musicals, so here's some flappers, let's put them on the wall. Here's like what men's suits were wearing, and obviously for this wall there was photos going up of Australian Aboriginal history, until they put up a photo of my family in chains, of family members. Like that was literally like my family from Wyndham in WA on the wall in the rehearsal room. And I walked in that day and I was like, because I looked at that photo for many, many times in my grandpa's history books, and everything he's got over the years he's collected. My grandpa, who a lot of my work is based off these days, he's got a certificate saying 52nd Aboriginal in Australia to no longer be flora and fauna and to be certified as a human being. Like,
Mm.
people are always like, oh, Nay-ah-rah, your ancestors. I'm like, no, my grandpa. He was born in a creek because his parents were black. Like, he's not allowed to be born in a hospital. You look at all of these things that that people have such ideas about. Oh, it's years and years ago. And I'm like, no, this is very real and very present. And
Yeah.
there's so much that people like colonizations years ago. And I was like, no, there's so much still happening right now. And it really bared a weight on me, this role, and the healing process after it. Like, I don't regret anything. I gave my
Mm.
whole heart and soul to this role and to the creation of it. It was so hard. I was crying. So I've never cried so much and felt so insecure in a role before. I remember bawling my eyes out on stage for the first run for an audience, which happened to be everyone from the Lyric Hammersmith. That was so humbling. I remember just thinking, I'm such a failure because I couldn't get through it without crying. And the next week I came home and I had my chicken and I had a bath and I did some real self care that night because I don't know how I'm going to face this next week of tech, because that was that's normally the last thing you do
Mm.
before you move into the theatre, is you have the run before the whole the company, the actual company, so
Oh,
Lyric
wow.
Hammersmith. And could barely get by. And once audiences started coming in, I realized who this was for and what this was about. Once people were there, I was like, oh my God, I felt seen, I felt listened to. And it's like I didn't feel supported in the room. It's just that someone needed to hear my message. And I didn't feel like that was happening too much in the rehearsal room just because the way the work was. And like I felt like I was an activist with no one listening, or someone, you know, like when you see the big parades through town, not parades, the protests. It felt like that level of I'm telling you my message, but there's no one out here to listen. So when I had people there to watch, I was like, oh gosh, and everything started to feel more comfortable. So it was a real weight on me personally as an artist. It took a couple of months to recover from, which I was quite public about too. You know, it was so challenging, and I was like, old people come with me, old people come with me, time and time again. But I made it through, and you know, I think there's lots of this that, you know, people would relate to or people wouldn't relate to at all, because you know, a lot of times in musical theatre we get to fall in love with people, and I dream of the day, Oliver, where I get to play a role where I fall in love and I
Of course
don't
you
need
will.
to dig on intergenerational trauma of years and years and years of hurt. So hopefully, you know, I get some auditions soon that were like, Naarah, we want you to play a romantic lead, and I'm like, oh my God, yes! So there's that too, and I got really deep really quickly, I guess, but
Yeah, no,
yeah,
no, bring it
it's
all,
a
man.
big process.
Yeah, fantastic. No, thank you for that. That's this is what I think a lot of people don't realize is that these it's 8 shows a week. And sometimes we have to go to the depths of our soul 8 times a week, sometimes twice in one day. And
Ugh.
it's I can't imagine what those 2 show days were like for you because unbelievable. But I remember speaking to Yael Farber, who's a big hero of mine. She directed The Crucible at the Old Vic back in 2014. Which
Wow.
I've banged on about this show on this podcast, but I love it so much. And to interview her earlier this year was just a dream come true. So it shows that perseverance does pay off,
It
and
does. Good on you.
have faith. Well, thank you. Yeah, and I remember Richard Armitage, who played John Proctor, who's Richard Armitage. People may know him from Thorin in The Hobbit. He was the lead, and
New Zealand.
he's a New Zealander. Sorry, but there's a bit of rivalry there. I don't want to spark anything off. So, no, it's all good. But he said when he was doing, because Proctor's one hell of a part, and he was in the corner shaking and crying after a dress rehearsal or just before showtime. And Jarl said to him, "Are you okay?" And he was like, "Yeah, we have to do this twice on a Wednesday and a Saturday. How? How do we do this?" And she just goes, "Well, you'll find it. You'll find it.
Yeah,
It's like I remember her talking about like actors are being like athletes and stuff. We are
absolutely.
through the ringer physically and emotional
Yep.
athletes 8 times a week, or if you're on set and you have to get to a certain place very quickly, and then
At 7 a.m. in the morning.
the assistant director's going, right, we've literally got 10 minutes, then we have to pack everything up, get back in the truck, get back in the vans, we have to go to the next section, so get emotional quick. And you're going, right, okay, right, think of something, and then it's high pressure, but
Absolutely.
we deliver, and we are capable of doing it, of course we are, but it's yeah. And again, it shows that there are no small parts, only small actors. And
That. Absolutely that.
yeah, and your part, might not have been as big as the others, but hey, you created an impact, man. You created an
Huge.
impact. Yeah, and you have those. Yeah, and I want to tell a very quick story, if I may.
Please.
Again, this is another show I've talked about on here, but hey, I love it, so I'm just going to do it anyway. So I don't think my mum's okay. My mum doesn't like me telling this story, but anyway, it's fine. But so when I was at drama school, I did a play called Widows, and I played a character called Alexis, who I probably had about 10 lines. And I remember it's a long show as well. And I remember flicking through the script and going, fuck, I don't have many lines. No one's going to see me. And then obviously now I know no small parts, only small actors, etc. And you create an impact. And the character I played had to be like a 16-year-old kid, and the play was set in Augusto Pinochet times in Chile. If anyone doesn't know, he was an evil dictator. He was like their version of Hitler, basically. But he had something called the secret police, where if he heard anyone speak out about anyone, even if it's just like to your mate in the pub, they would track you down. And if you're a male, by the way, and if they would track you down, then they probably did to women and children as well, actually. But they would track you down, kidnap you, take you away, torture you, kill you, throw you in a bin bag, and then throw you in the river. And then when people say, "Where's my dad? Where's my uncle? Where's my grandfather? Where's my son-in-law?" They go, "We have no idea." and it's an evil, evil man. And so I played a 16-year-old. I had to channel my inner 16-year-old for that part. Just remember what I was doing, and there were scenes where we had a whole fight choreographed scene where I got the butt of a gun across my face, like bang, like that, and then just mauled to the ground. And there's another scene where I get brought in and I've got a black eye, I've got blood pouring out of here and all that sort of thing. And I didn't have many lines, but I just now I realized that image of me, this is not me saying what amazing I am or nothing, but that image was like, this is like, these are the lengths
Yeah.
these people are willing to go to instill fear in the population. They'll take away and beat up a 16-year-old kid simply for doing nothing. And there's a moment where the captain had to grab my shoulder, and I've been tortured. So I had to scream in agony for like a good 5-10 seconds, and then after the show, I remember, and then I got murdered at the end. I got my throat slit at the end, and everything. Again, another message of we are powerful. This is what we do. And I remember afterwards, and I always remember this. I went outside and I said to my mum afterwards, I gave her a hug, and I just simply thought, I didn't think it'd be a problem. I didn't think it'd be a problem at all, because she's seen me in all kinds of things. And then I just
Yeah.
hugged my mum, and I said to her, "So what did you think, mum?" And she looked at me, and she had tears flowing down her face, and she looked at me and she said, "I've howled, I've cried, I've done everything." And then after, she came up to me and she went, "I never want to see that happen to you again." And I was like, "Mama, Mama, whoa, 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 it's cool, it's cool, it's cool. It was all safe, it was all safe. I didn't have to get hurt." She went, "I don't fucking care." And so yeah, so up to now, if I say the word widows to her, she goes, "No, no,
No.
no, we're not going there."
It just shows how momentous it can be, though, for a tiny, yeah, again, a small part, but
Yeah.
obviously it was so memorable and so visual and so, whoa.
Mm,
Like you get so used to the main people on stage. There was no leads as such in Our Country's Good,
yeah.
but it really like when you see like if I would have saw someone come out with all that amount of makeup on and that amount of hurt and destruction, you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like that sounds so, that feels so like momentous and oh my God, I feel like that's such a great story. I don't think you should be shameful of sharing that at all. And no one wants to see their child like that, let's be honest. But also that's how we should feel about think situations like that. No, every child is the same. That child has a mum somewhere who doesn't
Yeah.
want to see their child like that.
Yeah, yeah, and I think there was a moment actually towards the end where, so my granddad, he passed away a few years ago, and there's a moment where I'm sitting there, Alexis sitting there with his grandmother, and she's basically telling him in her own way, "Look, we have to be prepared for what's going to happen next. This is it. We're going to die now." But and he's there saying to her, "Look, I'm scared. I don't know what to do. I mean," and she said, "Put your hand in the earth." I said, "What do you feel?" I said, I don't feel anything. What's going on?" And she said, "It's your father's hand." And it's a strong hand, and basically saying we're gonna, I can't remember the line as such, but we will be in, like, I'm heavily paraphrasing now, but we'll be in the air. We will be that gush of wind. We will be there in the next life. We will be transcendent. We will be spirit. We're gonna be okay. It's gonna.
Wow.
And then my mum afterwards came up to me and she said, "What was that? What was the name of the girl who played your grandmother?" Said it was Tracy. She said, when Tracy said, "Put your hand in the earth," it's your father's hand. No, no, no.
Yeah.
I'll always remember that. That's an experience. Yeah. When you walk off stage, you go, "Okay, I've done a good job there. That was all right." But yeah, just reactions like that, and of course, like reactions like to your thing as well. I mean, I can't imagine like the people you met afterwards at the stage door, or just people who gave you some
Always.
feedback. Yeah, tell me about that.
Oh God, every there. Oh man, like there was the show and then there was after the show, and they were very eye-opening conversations. And
Yeah.
I had a quota in myself to be like, this is my daily activism. This is my responsibility. This is, and I don't feel like I every day like I needed to educate and talk to every person on this topic, but with this role, I was like, this is a space I need to hold. And anyone who wants to chat to me, I'm gonna chat and I'm gonna answer questions. So I put myself on the firing line for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, they'd be like, "Oh, are you one of those Maori from New Zealand?"
Oh, first of all, wrong country.
First of all, wrong country. Somewhat close, sure, but in England
Yes.
terms, bloody countries away.
Yeah.
So far away. Like
Yeah.
you look at the map of how much Europe fits in Australia and how much like it's a joke. Like, it's so
We're,
geographically
we're
different.
tiny. We're freaking tiny, aren't we?
Literally, it's like little England is like there's Australia, mate.
Yep.
But Māori culture is very, very different, and I'm one I'm very respectful of, and don't know like a lot about, but I've always, been very interested and always, across their political topics and things going on over there. But there was all of that coming on every time, and like, but what did you mean by all of these like a lot of older audiences, which I always had the most engaging conversations with.
Yeah.
And, I did it with diligence and with warmth. And, I think there was a lot of conversations where people were like, oh my God, Nairah, the world needs more of this. The world needs to talk about this more. They didn't know much about Aboriginal history, but they knew about First Nations globally and what Indigenous communities are going through or, what it's been like. And there was an overwhelming positive response. And there was lots of those other little conversations, which I mentioned, of course, of like, me, and that was just a weight on my shoulders, which I just kept bearing because I wanted to hold the space and to keep educating. So I'd always do it with graciousness and with warmth. I was never staunch about it. I was
No.
never, you're in the wrong for not knowing this. So I was, and I also, that probably weighed into why I felt so, like I was completely not burnt out because I know the term burnt out's a very different thing, but I did feel somewhat like, oh my God, this show has really taken a toll on me.
Mm.
For the last month and a half. And even other actors in the show were like, wow, Our Country's Good was a real weight. And also, one of the biggest blessings about it was we didn't have mics. I think as actors, we
Oh
always have
wow.
microphones and we get so used to comfortable. And I've always been a big voice girly. And I'm a big belter and I love the aretha and soul and holding a space completely. Even better if you don't have a microphone. And I've always been that kind of girl, not to rely on a microphone. I had a great singing teacher when I first started back in Tassie of like, yeah, and she was very classically trained. It's like, now you hold a space. The space doesn't hold you. And I was like, great, okay, cool, let's go. And not having microphones for that was just so empowering because every time you heard someone scream, every time you heard someone hurt or you heard someone feel something, it was really real
Mm.
and really like it's something really beautiful when you don't have microphones because your ear naturally knows where they are on stage. You're not hearing it in a speaker behind you,
Yeah.
stage right. It was something really opening, really vulnerable, really human about this show. And yeah, it really took a weight on a few of us. It wasn't just me. Obviously, another a black role in the show definitely felt so similar. And like the weight of this time and the racial prejudice of so
Yes.
many of these stories and all the
Mm.
prejudice in general, not just racial, but this show does a lot, which is obviously reflected a lot in the reviews, I think, too, of how much it does talk about. And, reviews were quite kind to the show. They did really well. I think there's a lot of great reviews about the show.
Good.
There's some really interesting, perspectives on the show of, what the storyline is. And, I think it's always weird like that when you look back on history because the storyline's literally what happened. This is history.
Mm.
And trying to get a storyline out of fact is, sometimes, not as easy as one might think it would be. Um, but yeah, Our Country's Good. What a blessing and not a curse, but a blessing and a. It's not. It wasn't a curse. It was a gift. It was a
Of
blessing,
course.
but it was definitely a weight
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I need to see this play now. I need to watch it. Yeah.
I know. I'm really gutted it didn't get
Yeah.
onto National Theatre Live. I think it really
Yeah.
deserved something like that. But
Yeah. If
the
there's
works.
Yeah,
Sorry,
sorry.
go.
No, no, I was just going to say, if any links to it, and if anyone's got anything to it at all, then please shoot them
Did you
my
see the
way.
trailer?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You saw the trailer? Yeah, the
Yeah.
trailer's amazing.
Oh, it's beautiful
Um,
shot. Yeah.
Yeah, and I used to look back and something I found really crazy. I look back in Australia and I used to look at all these photos of over in England and be like, wow, look at these West Ends. And that same photographer came and shot our show.
Wow.
And I was sitting there and I was like, this is insane. I've been looking at this guy's photos for years and he's taken some of the most iconic photos of me on that amazing Australian landscape.
Mm.
And that was a real humbling moment of like, wow, like I'm in London making this happen. I used to look at those photos, swiping on like feeds, and thinking, "Wow, London's so amazing." And that was the same photographer who took photos of me. It's just one of those, small moments we have as actors where we're like, "Yeah, we're on the right path," and things, little checkpoints along the way that, like, "Wow, great, we're doing good things."
Mm. Yeah, for sure. Um, Naarah, this has been, I could honestly talk to you for another 2 hours about this sort of thing. Honestly, this is absolutely amazing. We just got, let's see, we covered that. Also, just before we do the last two questions, I just want to do a quick shout out to your part in Deadlock, by the way, which I watched your show reel, by the way, which is on your website. And I'm gonna say I haven't yet watched the whole series, but I certainly will now because I love that part. It's a complete opposite to Our Country's
Yes.
Good. You play this no nonsense, hard as nails girl who just says it as it is, and it just yeah, it suited you, if I may say so. It was great.
Whoa,
Yeah,
crazy. It
yeah,
suited me. No one's ever said that before.
yeah,
Sherelle is so fun. Look, Deadlock was a great show. I couldn't believe like my lucky stars that I got to be a part of that. You know, that year I'd done 29 auditions and Deadlock
Oof.
was the 29th. I got 28 no's that year
Yeah.
and I just couldn't deal with another no. And that 29th audition, the one where I was like, I can't do this. I cannot fathom. This is November 2021. I cannot fathom another no. Like I just gone through the ringer of it, and we all know what that feels like as an actor or creative or
Oh,
anyone
yeah.
who deals with resilience or fighting for their dream. And I had messaged a couple of friends, and they got me across the line to that gig, and I was like, oh, and I did my final callback for it, and I was like, that's it. And that day, a couple of months later, they took months on this, by the way, and they knew it was me in December because later makeup and costume would tell me like, no, they had my headshot sitting on the wall from December, and I found out like God, maybe 6 weeks later, and which was crazy, which feels like forever in actors' terms. You're like, the gig's gone. My agent rang and I was like, oh my God, sorry, I gotta send you this thing for that Shakespeare gig. Yes, and oh, actually, I'm just letting you know I'm gonna audition today for the Deadlock Extras that's shooting in Tasmania because it's probably gonna be in Tasmania for a few months. And she was like, Naarah, shut up, you got Deadlock. And I was like, what? Kidding me? And I was screaming and running around the house like in the same day that I'm telling her I'm about to apply for the extras to be on it. I got the role that I was auditioning for,
Yeah.
which was huge and such a good little Tassie show. It's based off Broadchurch, which is a very serious British murder mystery.
Yes.
So this is a very serious murder mystery with a whole lot of lesbians and a whole lot of laughs. And it's so bloody Australian. It's really well known over here. And the queer community love it a lot too because it just calls stuff out and it's very witty. The comedy of it's their own style. The Kates are amazing. That's the showrunners, Kate McLennan and Kate McCartney. And it's a great show. And season two is actually in the works, so coming out very soon as
Fantastic.
well,
Well,
which I'm not involved in because it's moved cities.
ah,
But that's okay. Me and my other friends who that were on the show, we mourn it, but that's okay. You know, there's other things happening, and it wouldn't make sense for our characters to be there anyway.
yeah.
But it's a great show. I really recommend it on Amazon Prime. Deadlock, Deadloch.
Yeah, deadlocked, as in Loch Ness monster.
Yes,
Yes, yeah,
exactly.
exactly that. Yeah, no, no. Like I say, I've only seen bits from your show reel. I haven't watched the whole thing yet, but I look forward to that and everything. So what I've seen of it, you really do play a great part in that. So yeah,
Thank you.
no, congratulations. So yeah, honestly, I think we'll have to draw a veil there, unfortunately, because there's so much more to talk about. But I've taken up enough of your time anyway. So thank you for being so gracious with your time today. Nay-ah-rah. I have to keep looking at that thing to make sure I pronounce it right. It's
Just
Nay-ah-rah.
appreciate that effort. Thank you so much. Naarah, yeah.
Yeah,
Names are so
yeah.
important.
Yeah, no, I do a thing on some episodes where I start it and then I say the name wrong and they're like, oh, it's actually this. And I'm like, so you can just like listen to other intros. I'm like, I always do that. But hey, got to do something to stand out, I suppose, don't you? But so yeah, it's the last two questions for today. So the first one is, what would you say was a bit of advice that you wish you heard at the beginning of your career?
If you can't see a space for yourself in the industry, go and make one.
Mm,
I feel like going and making it happen for yourself. If you
yeah,
don't go to theatre shows and think, oh, I could do that role, or, oh, I don't know, no, it's always go and make something, go and create something. You
yeah,
know, there's so many little things along the side that have made my career what it is today. And yeah, it's gonna happen, keep happening for the next 30, 40 years. So I'm really excited to see where that goes.
exactly. I look forward to it. I look forward to seeing how you progress. And yeah, it's very true. You know, if there's creating your own work is just so important because you're creating opportunities for yourself and then it opens doors and then you get to where you want to be because of your own initiative. So
Absolutely.
that's where that's where the magic happens. That's where it happens. And then finally today, what would you say has been, I'm sure you've answered this already actually, but what would you say has been an experience or experiences you've had in your career up to now that you'll never forget?
That I'll never forget. This is so niche, and it's not even my career. It's I was sitting in Australia maybe a couple of days before I moved to London, and I went and watched Beauty and the Beast, the national tour in Australia of Beauty and the Beast, the Disney show.
Nice.
And there was this magical, magical moment where I was just sitting somewhere up the back and the orchestra hit full forte and all of the sets just moving around beautifully. There's these huge glittering gowns just got like floating across the stage, and the orchestra's just everything's just loud, and I can just hear this orchestra hitting forte, and the lights are all moving, the actors are all moving to the next thing, and I just started crying, and I was like, "Oh my God."
Mm,
This is so overwhelming, and I want to make people feel like this and so engrossed in another world for the rest of my life.
mm,
And like that feeling of just being like, wow, this, like, you're just so in a world, whether that's, you're seeing a Shakespeare, you're at the Old Vic watching The Crucible, you're watching Avatar at the IMAX in Waterloo, maybe you're watching a small town show in, I don't know, in some tiny town in Australia, maybe, it's in Southampton in England, you're watching your local community theatre production of Pippin, moments like that where you're just so engrossed in a story and so engrossed in a world that's not yours and someone else's shoes is like, that's my job in this world and that's my purpose is to make people feel like that. And it was just me witnessing just Beauty and the Beast at the Sydney Lyric Theatre and thinking, oh my God,
yeah.
that's me. I'm doing musical theatre. And then I moved to London. Here I am.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. But fantastic story to finish on. Now, like I say, this has been absolutely incredible. Thank you for your time today. You've been very generous with it, and just to hear your experiences. And yeah, we've covered a lot today. Yeah,
We've done amazing, Oliver. This is a
we've done.
great chat. I can't wait to
Yeah,
share this and let everyone know about this chat. I think it's been really
yeah,
informative and really exciting around so many different topics. So go you.
yeah.
Thank
I've
you so
loved
much
it.
for holding this space.
No, no, no. Thank you. I mean, I'd love to have you back. We've still got so much more to talk about. But until
Oh,
then,
very
uh,
evident.
yeah. Until then, I look forward to what's next for you and everything. And yeah, and fantastic. Yeah, great chat. Thank you for this. If you just hang on, I'll finish the recording. We'll have a little debrief afterwards. Then I'll let you go. But yeah, brilliant stuff, guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. This has been the Uncensored Critic podcast, and I'll be back very, very soon. And for now, Nay-ah-rah, thank you so much.